John Lay here, Talented Learning, with another installment of our executive briefing series where I travel around the world virtually and visit with the world's hottest and most innovative learning technology solutions. Today's stop is with Authentic Learning Labs, and I'm joined by the founder of Authentic, Tamer Lee. Tamer, take it away.
Well, it's our pleasure and appreciate the opportunity. Authentic is really trying to solve some of the problems we see out in the space and opportunities, really. We think that the space is maturing at a point where a specialist platform creator is important. We see that too much e-learning happens without a very good insight on tracking and performance. We also see, people with pretty strong investments in platforms to deploy learning, but not really good, rich learning experiences. And even when they have the tools, the challenges is that either they don't have enough resources to get things out, and it becomes like a book publishing model where e-learning courses take as much as a book would take to create and put out to the web, or it requires a type of resources that are pretty finite in an organization. So we kind of want to solve those problems. We're not trying to replace any tools, but we think that the craftsman shop is now at a point where we can add to the arsenal and help organizations that have key challenges. Some of them being in data, some of them being in learning experience. So we targeted those types of places where they kind of almost fit in two camps. They may have learning platforms and they've made significant investments, and I think this becomes more relevant nowadays with a cost reduction and possible concerns over investments due to the economy and due to COVID and things like that. These are groups that have learning management systems, but they can't shake the bad experience of some places because it's so regimented or it's so focused on a specific type of learning. The other category is groups that may just have a specific need and just deploy learning or reports for a specific need and don't need the overall complexity of and not just the complexity, because these tools are great tools, but they just need something to launch a program. They have a certificate program, they have a course, it's a pillar for their experience, or they want to try to get out something very quickly. We want to help in those categories. So Authentic is trying to do that in a few areas. And then the products that we have, we first release is called Manifest Learning Analytics. It used to be called Authentic Analytics, but we kind of wanted to give it its own name since it's growing in popularity. And what that's serving, that platform is serving, is maturing learning organizations that need to track and build insights from their learning programs and training programs. Manifest is essentially providing pre-built templates, so reporting templates that are beyond what we call the data dumps, because most e-learning platforms, they have strong data outputs, but they're basically spreadsheets. And for an organization that's already strapped for resources, it becomes just another pile of information that they can't do anything with. So what we're trying to do is standardize views and create them on our own using the insights from our clients in the industry, but also our own educational perspective to create benchmark views on different things: learners, courses, tests, video consumption, analytics like web analytics combined with learner performance, survey evaluation data, and then on top of that, adding our own metrics. We're not manipulating the data from the learning management system, but saying, hey, here are some key highlights. Did you know this is happening? Did you know that there are problem indicators of enrollments here? You have some lagging students. Those are things that we can do on top of the data that we feel like are value adds. So that's a Manifest. So think of it as like the data analytics team specifically for learning. We're not claiming that we invented analytics. We did not invent the reports.
You did analytics?
No, not at all. Despite some of our marketing attempts, and but however, we are trying to say is we're going to just look at it at the lens of this. So the funny thing is where we're working, these clients by and large have an analytics solution already in place. Almost every one of, if not all of them, smaller groups, because they can get into this without the major expense. So some of those groups have never had it. But for the larger consumers, they already have on the shelves some purchase of Microsoft Power BI or Domo or one of these other tools, Tableau, sorry, it's another one. Those are the big ones. They're expensive. They work very well. but they're specifically used by, typically what we see is a talented technology team will be on borrowed time to help the learning and development team or the training team create some reports. They create it and then they go away. And then they come back when they can get commissioned to do some more work.
Right.
What we're saying is, we're learning specialists. We're looking at this from a perspective that you're looking for, so that the data makes sense to us first. We're not just, you know, programmers for hire. We're looking for things that you may be interested in. And then, by the way, we'll also work with you to tailor these views, to create new custom views, or just use these specific to your particular audience.
Wow.
So that's working out well. Both large organizations, enterprise, global, will use this to track their learning programs and training. Then the smaller groups are saying, we finally have a way to do this without hiring someone. So it's not just an enterprise type of solution. It's one, anybody that's really trying to say, you know, for example, a very small organization has very keen needs for insights on their assessment data. They're a grant-based program, and they need this data to validate their impact. Well, for them to do that, it's very expensive to do that outside. They would have to hire a consultant. They would have to pay that consultant a retainer and whatever to be, you know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of work. You know, our license fees for that particular size of organization would be at a fraction of that. So the cost of probably where we're looking at is a seat of one of these other tools. They're giving it to all the stakeholders in their interest areas within the organization, and we're trying to not discourage them from distributing that access. So we give them a lot of flexibility in who gets that access, because that's the other price point concern for all these good tools is like a Tableau or Microsoft Power BI. It thrives on the need to give people seat licenses because that's how they make their money. For us, it's like we have tiers to give the organization flexibility, not only for their own users, but for their distributed enterprise. Maybe they have partners or customers they want to give access to their data only. We are able to do that. So for a large multinational organization we work with, they give their access to not only a distributed divisional responsibility, but they also give it to certain customers and vendors for their specific purview of data. So that's Manifest. The other piece of the places
just one
where
comment on that.
Sure.
Great job, great idea to beat these companies just with rethinking the business model. You know, coming at it from that learning specialist and just letting it go to the masses like that is, you know, one of the biggest blockers for sure. It's just the access to that. So yeah, fascinating idea, Tamer.
We appreciate that. We're self-serving in that. I mean, we saw that this is something that we were limiting ourselves with the platforms that we work with. We were like, well, we'll give you the data. That's not really solving the business questions. So what we want to do when we start these dashboards is first start with the questions we're trying to answer. Is my program making an impact to the learners? Are these enrollments languishing? Are they dying out there and nobody's completing them? These, like some of these taboo topics that we know are in learning. Can we give real data in a way that someone doesn't need to have, you know, years and years of training in Excel spreadsheets and query languages to do quick analysis for? That's really what we're trying to do.
One quick question, and I'll let you go on. So if you're one of those large enterprise clients that already have Tableau or Domo, as you described, would your solution then just be incremental to that, or do you sit on top of that, or it would just be kind of like parallel? They would still continue to push to Tableau if they wanted to, but you would basically sit on Manifesto would sit on top of that, or Manifest.
That's great. That's a great question. And from our point of view, what happens so far is those organizations that have had those types of tools have said, we want your tool to speak to it. So what we've said is everything that you see in the Manifest platform, all the analytics, all of them are API based. So we play friendly. We're not going to silo that data. We're saying we're going to put the lens of that information. We're going to put our lens of education on it. However, we feel that it's most valuable if we share it. So we're sharing it to the corporate BI initiatives and all these larger organizations who are pulling it up to create their own mega dashboards for corporate executives. So that one example of another multinational organization. They're using the direct dashboards from Manifest Analytics, but they're also taking the APIs and pulling them into their own analysis and slicing and dicing it with other sources of information from their own, tools and platforms, which is a great place for us. We don't want to say that we're exclusive in that regard. That works well.
You're just the learning experts with data.
Yeah, so we can always claim a pretty good comfort in that. Where else we can't say is we'll beat Tableau head to head, or Qualtrics, or any of these tools that do something very well across many aspects of their software. So that's Manifest. And again, the problem we wanted to solve was there's not enough insights and then not enough resources and capital to do the work we need to make a real practice out of learning. And,
Makes sense.
We tell people if they're not measuring it consistently, then they really don't have a program. They're really just running, shotgun and trying to do things kind of instinctually. It's kind of dangerous. And then the other side is on the content side. We thought a lot of work that we see, if you look at it and you kind of put a critical hat on, what you see is essentially a PowerPoint slide that's been synced up with audio and a little bit of animation. And it doesn't speak well to the capabilities of the people behind it, nor is it to the level that the web is at the moment. There is a lot of richness in the media that we see in the web in general. So we thought, wouldn't it be easier if we could do some things to make it template-based and create our own capabilities to do learning? And we can just show you quick some of those things right now. I had too many tabs open, so.
That's never happened to me.
So what we wanted to show was that, and I'm also trying to show you behind the scenes too. So the lines below the white boxes are, so a key thing was, can we make the experience better? And it was, the experience was that we saw that it was too much stuff out there that was too hard to build. And when you did ultimately build it, it didn't look good. So Shuttle is our interactive video player and capability. And we didn't just stop at just wanting to just put a course up that was a video. We wanted to make it so that we can fast track and equip people who didn't want to go the route or couldn't afford the route in terms of time and maybe resources to build a very good tool like Articulate or Captivate or Storyline 360. What we wanted to do was, we saw a lot of video being created, especially nowadays, right? With all these webinars and Zooms and sessions like this, can we give them a tool that could speed up the process to within minutes, not months or days? So Shuttle is really both a studio and a delivery mechanism to take content that's been video or audio and add dynamic transcripting through artificial intelligence, dynamic key points, which we're going to hold from the market purposely because we feel like it's somewhat of our secret sauce, but we can actually pull key points from the video, speakers and bookmarks. What you see on the bottom, because this is a more technical dialogue and someone internal that knows these things, I also wanted to show you the bottom of the screen, which is the X API. So we're adopting to the industry standards, but the person who built this only had to upload a video and then within a few minutes select the features that they wanted. They wanted a quiz, they embedded a quiz in a few minutes of the video. They wanted a bookmark, they would set the bookmarks to the points in the video here. The transcript, and you could see that it's picking up where I am. The key point with the transcript is it's automatically generated. We've seen tools before, we've been part of tools that have created some certain capabilities like this, but we always wanted to do a little bit more here, so it wasn't a labor to create the transcript. This transcript's generated from artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence also identifies the speakers, and then the author of this tool, whoever is putting this thing together, will then choose to upload particular profiles of the speakers. So the speakers are going to be identified by the artificial intelligence as speaker 1, 2, 3. Then you can name them. And you can put their profiles, and you can put a LinkedIn contact or whatever in here, or disclosures if this is a medical or legal continuing education to show any conflicts of interest. The entire platform is mobile. It's also been localized to 16 different languages, so we will detect the person's language preference by their browser and offer it when the author has configured that option to say, hi, John, we noticed that your preference on your browser is set to German. Would you like to see the interface in German? Also highly stylized and optimized for accessibility. Not only these smaller things like text size and night and day mode, but behind the scenes adaptive functionality to adjust to screen readers and assistive technologies. So what we wanted to do was like, can we take all the headaches that someone who is either a learning expert or subject matter expert away, and can we just give them a cool tool that they can just plug in content, select some features, and go. And literally within 30 minutes or 15 minutes, they have a course. And what you'll see here is even if I finish this course and whatever things, you can see that it's being tracked, the person is followed. I can search for words. So if it said something like the word spectrum, if I spell right, I'll find it. And then there's, looks like 3 references, result 1 of 3. I can click on it and you can jump to that point.
Cool.
We're using very simple things, and what you'll see, notice here is all the events, all the actions I take. This list of verbs is all the rich data that it's generated, and we track within our system. So problem we're trying to attack here is it takes too long to build a course, and by the time I do create it, it looks like PowerPoint online. We wanted to create the video-based course with the content they had, with the subject matter expertise they had, but still not sacrifice any of the rich data. So there's no programming involved to get this. The only thing they would have to select is how someone marks this complete. Is it based on the quizzing? Is it based on a certain amount of the video? But we have all the controls that they're used to and having in YouTube or SoundCloud or any of these tools like Vimeo. We didn't want them to sacrifice that at all, nor did we want them to sacrifice anything like, you know, the mobile responsiveness or anything like that. Now, those 2 white ugly boxes are only here because of our demo. But you'll see that in a moment, there are other capabilities here, like we talked about the speakers and the bookmarks, that I can jump to a particular part in the video.
Question. Does this studio act as the delivery tool also, and can the delivery of what we're seeing right now be inserted into existing LMSs that are already in place in organizations?
Exactly. The answer is yes to the latter, is that it works as a studio that can output to learning standards AICC and LTI right currently. So we can output a format that will map to an LMS and launch from an LMS and report back that data to the LMS while still taking the rich data of the XAPI into our learner record store. So we save them money. They don't have to go get a learner record store. And then we give them the rich reports that they're used to or expecting with reports. And I'll show you some of this is a sample one. I had to anonymize some of the client data, but you'll see at the high level, and this is anonymized client information. I have a little tool that blurs the titles of them, but you'll see that this particular client has 59 total shuttles, which are videos, how many unique viewers, how much overall viewing average viewed. You can see that they have very good data, and then how much time within the 30 days that I've selected, and then how much percentage watched. And then if I click on the detail, I would actually see the participants, because we know who they are, because they've authenticated into this, who watched those videos and how much time each one did.
If this is being launched from another LMS, you still can authenticate who those learners are from your side?
That's correct. And if we use some of the mechanisms that we have, yes, that's correct.
I see. Okay.
So where we want to go with is that the content experience doesn't end with just the shuttle. Simpatico is the template builder that lays out shuttles in other media. So we're making an assumption that if we can create templates that look like this, we just want them to drop in their own visual assets. And these are all shuttles. So this is one, we're not working with Tesla. This is just an example just for the purposes of a showroom model. But you'll see that this is a pre-existing, what we call a Simpatico template. Simpatico, we call Simpatico because we want it to be amiable. It plays friendly with all kinds of content. It will take any of your content and make it better by saying, we have these existing templates. Don't hire anybody to web develop this page or construct a elaborate, articulate type of template to make this happen. We'll give you an empty template to drop this in. And that's what Simpatico does. And there's different variations to this. You'll see that this is a different one. This is like a grid view of a gallery. Another one was what we call a showcase. This would be a gallery where it's you could search for a particular, and then when you click on it, you would go to a particular version of a shuttle. But these are all templates that we will offer, and then as we advance the capabilities to kind of open up and behind the curtains, we'd give the advanced users and people who want to have access the ability to build their own templates. We can do that ourselves right now. We do not have the comfort level yet to say we want to give that to others, frankly. But because it could be something that we need to make a little bit more user-friendly, right? But the thing is here is that these are templates that could be used.
Mm-hmm. And so
sure, go ahead, please.
Could I take this template, for example, and embed it in a page in my WordPress site? Is that the intended use case or something else?
That's correct. Now, we would have to identify which authentication protocol we would use, like SAML would be something we could do. So we would launch into SAML. So you would use the things that the website would be used to having already. So yes, that's exactly where we want to say is, look, don't think of this as just you have to launch from an LMS. Some programs have a good WordPress example and they just want to launch from that. That's totally fine.
Right. Cool.
So I'm just trying to bring up another real example where basically, that grid view, and I'll show you here in a second, and draft mode. And the team is still building out some components to this, but this is a course. And in that course, they wanted to use this grid layout to showcase a certain number of videos. But when you click on the video, it comes back to the shuttle experience where here is the shuttle and here is the particular transcript for this. And they've chosen to just use transcript and bookmarks for this. But I can quickly go to a particular point here. And the thing is usually when they put these kinds of things available, what you'll note is that different organizations will use it differently. But we have the capabilities to, let's just say if they wanted to enable different languages or light and dark mode, we're just testing this out, but just to show you that can all be supported. So this wrapper around this video is Simpatico, the video itself is Shuttle. And really that's differentiating us and how we develop and launch experience within what we see here is an existing learning platform launching content that is not normally part of their learning management system, but still tracks learning, tracks all this data, so we know all the launching of all of these pieces of content within that experience.
Wow. Love it.
So we needed that flexibility, right? We go into places where we get involved as more advanced needs, and we'd like to have these kinds of tools. So, again, self-serving, we want, from where we started with Manifest to Shuttle and Simpatico, these are all tools that we wanted to make our work easier for ourselves and for other clients that get into these advanced situations. And really, we don't really go into situations where they're just primary learning. Hey, we're just kicking the tires on eLearning. These are groups that are hitting a wall and that they need something that's real and that it's practical and cost effective and seamless to their overall experience. So that's how we get involved.
Yeah, you're when they need some serious help, they call you guys.
And we're grateful for that. I mean, we're in a role that we're more of a tradesman group than we are a generalist, and that allows us to exist in the size we want. It keeps us somewhat nimble. We're always anxious to make the impact versus trying to every time push some type of software to a particular organization. We have different ways to solve those problems.
Well, we talk all the time, Tamer, over the last 7 years, and so I'm always learning every time we talk. I feel like I just talked to you yesterday, but a lot of this is more advanced than I remember. So maybe it's been a few months. How are you selling this? How are you going to market with it? Is this like, for example, the shuttle, shuttle studio? I got to put my glasses on. The shuttle studio, is that something that you would license independently? Is that like,
yes.
How are you going to market with that? What's that look like?
Marketing is probably our biggest weakness, but what we typically do is rely on word of mouth, and then obviously our own efforts to sponsor and be part of major learning initiatives and training L&D programs. What we typically have is a funnel of organizations that come to us through different means. One is because of partners who know of us and know that we can come in when there is a specific business challenge that a generalist doesn't serve. So we're typically occupying a space where either the consultant space where we've been able to, fortunate enough to have a good reputation there, or we come in because a specific request for proposal has specific needs that a general learning platform will come to us because it would complement their existing platform specific to one of these three areas we talked about: content layouts, or reporting. Those are great places for us to exist, and that's how we get it. We wish we could say that we're getting a lot of Google AdWords stuff. Those are places where we're trying to learn how to best optimize those, but they still come. We do still get organic growth from that, but a lot of it is coming from the existing channels of trusted networks, partners, and client references specifically. Very similar industry partners will come in and say, we saw you doing this for one of our partner organizations. We'd love to work with you. That's the kind of type of business we're typically doing now.
I see. And so something like Shuttle Studio in particular, which I see, wide application for, if it can integrate or it does integrate with any learning management system through those standards, it really gives you an instant to a global audience. Is this something at this stage that an organization would need to engage with you? Like live?
Yeah, we do have feelers out and we have alliances with certain platforms, but it's definitely something we would invite. If someone we haven't touched base with, we would definitely invite it. And we're neutral in that regard and would be open to any of those kinds of alliances where we think that both sides would benefit, which is a good predecessor to or prerequisite to any of these types of good relationships.
Right. What's audience, I'm not necessarily asking the question for you. I'm just perhaps asking because I'd love to work some of this shuttle video into my own content.
Well, we would definitely, to the level that's allowed, we would put, and you could give us a sample video and we can show you how it will work. And we can show you some of the other secret features that we're releasing. We kind of showed you some of the features conservatively because there are some things that we're doing that will further differentiate us.
It's just you and me, Tamer.
Yeah,
just you and me, and 1,000 of our closest friends. That's it. No one else. No one else. Hey, show us a little authentic or manifest,
you bet,
if you can, and bring to life what analytics and dashboards means.
Sure thing.
Please. Put you on the spot.
So with analytics, what you'll see is that what we're doing is almost near real-time data that's coming from the learning management system. We're pulling in and tracking on analytics. And so when you see this, if I go into a dark mode, probably show a little bit better. Let's see here. What you'll see is some enrollment data in activity. And really what we're trying to do with any of these types of dashboards is the kind of key activity and insights that doesn't require training. And just basically you look at it and you understand, almost like what you would see in informatics, information design in a sports page or site, or reading the news sites that you do. that you completely understand what's being shown, and you can completely understand how to control the data and the time. And so, for example, you want to segment the data in a little bit differently. This is a 30-day window of time. I'm simulating a client data here. It's not the real client. But if you say, oh, well, I see this in a line chart, can I see it in area chart? And then can I segment it a little bit different, like weekly or daily? You could see that, and it's the same data. But then I could say, well, I'm interested in this particular day, and I click on it. I'll actually go to that day and see the activity for that day. Again, without learning any kind of advanced training or anything like that. We also try to show you what's happening in that time period. So with everything we're doing, we're trying to say, not only are we taking in the data, but can we summarize some of the data, like here is to say, this didn't come from the LMS. So the LMS can provide us general data like enrollments, but we're then tracking and creating our own metrics and saying, what did you do in comparison to the last 30 days? Well, down 52%. Completions down 58%. Adding little troughs or marks to where they're max and min or average time spent or average days to complete. And as you scroll down, you'll see other data points that we're actually adding as elements. We're not transforming or manipulating the data, but we're adding what we think are value-added data. So returning members, this is a particular membership organization. Actually, this is simulated data, but you'll see to the extent we can, some of the data that we can show you, which is total learners, returning learners, and member, non-member. Again, simulated data from a couple of different sites that we have as a sample here. And then you can see credits earned and certificates earned. So these are dates and times, and wherever we can, we try to simulate the or mark averages or maximums so that they can actually see the data as well as they could if they actually generated in their own analysis. With the activity status, we dive into it even further. We say, okay, in this time period of these enrollments, what happened to them? So we do a life cycle check on all the enrollments that happen. And then wherever possible, when the data allows it, it's downloadable in different formats. As you can see here, it's PDF here. And then also, if I go to any of these visuals, what you'll notice is it's in multiple formats for the actual visuals. So I mentioned earlier that everything is an API based. You'll see that this JSON format can be exposed for any API to pull this particular view and say, I don't have to create this view. I can just pull it from the data from the JSON object in an API we publish for the clients.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, so this is going very well, and what we've done over time is, this is a reflection of time and energy to just be craftsmen. And I'll just show you another view without going too much into it because it starts showing. This is another site, but you'll see a summary of all the assessments this particular group does for the last 30 days. This is just assessment data. So again, what are we doing for this particular group is how many assessments in the last 30 days were taken, how many total learners, average score, average time spent, and then question analytics, pre-post test comparison, and any manual release exams are all in here. This particular vendor also does confidence scoring. So we have all that data for them. And then we can actually tell what this data is for this particular organization. And so this client will have access to these dashboards and select them from this menu. And then once they select it, there might be even sub views within here. And as you can see, there's scored assessments, self-assessments within the same period.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do is say, can we do this without causing more training for the reporting? Because really we want it to be 5 to 10 seconds, you acclimate to the screen and you understand how to use it. The most complex part of this is to know how to use filters to pick time and date, filter of a specific date range and a particular product. Because you can say, show me this for only this particular assessment. This is an aggregate view. But if you say, I want to pick a particular assessment, you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cautious. I have to show you simulated views, but if I can also try to show you some of these new ones. But the difficulty of our work sometimes is that we can't show you some things because it's a
secret.
It's secret. Let's see here. Yeah, I think if anything else we go into, it might be a little bit more dangerous, but let me actually show you one more thing here.
All right.
So when they log in, you'll see that we give them anywhere they go, we'll give them updates on enrollments, dashboards, unique users. So wherever they go, they know what's happening at any point.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry to be cryptic about other things. It's just that I think some of those, if I go to a real site, then I run the risk of showing too much.
And that is the balance of the public-private briefings. But just to be able to get a good look at that is what we need.
Yeah, let me show you. This is a little bit more fun. Is that you can also look at content in a different way and say, well, I just want to see my catalog in a different way and see how many in this particular way, and see what is this content and how is it structured. Mm-hmm. This is a real client, so I can't go into a little bit more, but you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Just show you one more here, a little bit more advanced view. So how are these organizations using it is really to manage their library of content. They learn now they can look at 2,000 library titles very easily by looking at it this way versus something where they had this complex view. For example, this is a very mature organization. You'll see
there it is.
A very deep library of content. Let me clear my annotation here. And what you'll see here is that they have different types of programs. Activity type, you click on it and you'll see all these types of courses, and who has the time to actually go through if we click on any of these, you'll actually see how many people enrolled, the details of each in a view that's different than if you had to leaf through a spreadsheet.
Right.
So nice. Just a different way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Give you a little visual representation of how big the sample set is. Yeah.
That's correct.
Well, great stuff, Tamer. As always, you're pushing the envelope, always developing new things since the day I met you.
Oh, thank you, John.
You're always, I get to see, of course, everybody on these executive briefings, but audience, when you follow Tamer, it's always the thing that's coming next, that's on the edge
that's really nice,
of how to push. And then there's all kinds of vendors that, come on the other side, more in the middle of the wave. But with Tamer, you can always expect to be on the edge. Tamer, what are the 3 most important things you would like people to remember about Authentic Learning Labs?
That's a great call. that's one we were probably.
And I didn't ask you that in advance.
That's not scripted for sure, right? One is that we probably are. There used to be a company that said we didn't invent a certain thing, we just made it better, and that's really what we were trying to do. One is we didn't invent learning, we didn't invent the analytics, we didn't invent the course experience. We're just trying to make it better. 2, we do not require any of the heavy investments or wholesale changes that a major learning technology initiative would. We want to be complementary, and so we can come in either to launch from your platform, whether it's an LMS, CMS, or both. And 3rd, what we're trying to do is that we're serving, each one of these could be used standalone, in conjunction, or they could be a replacement of an initiative where you didn't want to go through the complexity of an LMS. So those are probably the 3 things that I think item 2 and 3 somewhat connected, but those are things. And then I think if there was a 3B, if we were offered another one, would be that we're building for audiences that don't want to spend the time recreating things that are probably best in templates, like localization for languages, accessibility for the disabled and for assistive technologies, tracking. Those are always things we hear instructional designers and developers not wanting to deal with. We want them to help. We want to help them with a tool that can just leverage their expertise and place content, whether it's in a shuttle video or a simpatico template. They're able to do what they want to do and not worry about the headaches of the typical, I gotta go build 10 pages, put a lesson here, put an interaction here. Those things will continue. we're just taking a different angle, and that's fine. I mean, there will always be, I think, a place for coexistence in that, and there are, many fields where that kind of thing is necessary and needed, but we just want to take a different approach.
Sure. And the diversity of learning media. I mean, to just keep on diversifying your portfolio, your library with better and more interactive content, maybe not all at once, but always introducing new is a common trait I found among a lot of successful training businesses out there, is always trying to push that envelope. So it's nice to bring in these new tools. And, in your top three, you didn't talk as much about that analytics, but I'll recap it for you and give you your 4B and
Thank you.
4B and 5A. Is that, analytics, there's nobody that doesn't think it makes a lot of sense. The problem is that it drags you down in time. So to figure out how to create these learning dashboards and how to manipulate that data is not an easy thing to do. It's really strategic. And when you use resources that aren't learning, what you get is data experts. What you don't get is learning experts. And what Authentic has done is brought that together, that hand-holding expertise with a strong background in learning. And, that's a key differentiator that you bring as just one part of your three solution. So
yeah, that's definitely well articulated. And for us, it's really like that's the way. That's the big challenge for us, is to communicate that the organizations that they're going to have a lot of trouble trying to do that otherwise. There's value in what they're doing. There are certainly groups that can have that BI team build these, and yes, those Tableau, they can comparatively look just like ours in many ways, so even look better in sometimes. But over time, we help the practice specific to this area. So it's a specialization for sure, and groups that know that pain will understand the value of this. At least we hope.
Last question real quick. Any, I saw member-based organizations in one of your examples, top industries that you think you impact the best, or doesn't matter?
That's great. I think anything, so because of the tracking capabilities of what we saw in the reporting data, compliance, and groups that are tracking for either compliance or regulatory or for accreditation will also fall. Membership organizations are a piece. Other one is corporate entities that need to share data and then improve learning experiences across multiple types. Corporate entities have the concern over, especially more and more, about accessibility and localization, to be sensitive to all the types of users that are coming to the site and sensitive to the cultures and languages. The other is the need to disseminate that learning report data to multiple hierarchies within their organization and to others. Typically, these BI initiatives only can handle like 4 or 5 people because the licenses are so prohibitive. But with us, we're getting it where people are hitting 2,000 users are getting access, because that's this organization's extended enterprise. They have worked with, major franchisees. They have their own sub networks, regional, state, in need of the data. As long as we know the data, we can map it to any hierarchy and what we call a tailored view, where we can say, okay, you have Acme company that works for you and their distributors. You need them to have their own data for their own users. Here's a login just for them to look at their data within your super organization. So that's fun. It's fun, and we're helping organizations, because we work in the science, this field that always is looking for science behind what we do. We're trying to do that. We're trying to put a strategic arsenal together so that our cohorts, our people who work in learning and development training, have the tool set necessary to have those strategic dialogues, not just saying it's soft scoring and it's qualitative assessment. We have real data behind it. So
well, outstanding. Well, thanks for coming on the show today and briefing that publicly and sharing everything. It's fantastic. We look forward to having you on again here as you get some new updates. So keep us informed when it's time to get an update. Geez, if I don't talk to you for 6 months, you'll probably solve the whole world. So let's make it sooner than that. All right, audience, thanks for viewing another installment. We'll see you on the next stop of our virtual tour of the world's best learning solutions on the Talented Learning Executive Briefing Series. Have a great day, everyone.
John. Take care. Have a great day.